Right, y'all, we are here with another Artivist Talk. We got the legendary Edwina. I'm throwing the hood for this one because we're about to get it in. I'm going to send her a request and we are going to make it happen. And yeah, this is a very, very powerful person. Peace, peace. What's going on? What's going on? We're about to start up the live with Edwina, amazing woman who's been doing some great music education work for 20 plus years. Boom. We got her in the building. Let's see if we got a request to join. Boom. We did it. Yes,
Yay!
yes. I had to throw on a poncho for this. We went in true artivism style where the post office is hitting your boy up. And I had to breathe through it. Literally at 59. You know, when the post office calls, they only calling once and they ain't calling back. So thank you for your patience and your virtue. Appreciate
Yeah.
everyone loading into the chat. We are here with an amazing woman. Once I met this person, the vibrations were so high. A true artivist in my heart, in my opinion, an advocate for the reform of music education, for the upliftment of our youth, for getting outside of the box. And as the room trickles in, shout out to everybody in here. Shout out to Beth Bliss. Shout out to my Guyanese folks in here. Shout out to everybody joining in. We'll get started in a few minutes if you know somebody. We got Zubi out here all the way from UK. The room is flying in. Patience is a true virtue. But yeah, a couple beautiful things I want to say about Edwina is not only is she an advocate for music education reform, she rose up through the ranks of a system that is crazy to say the least, but it is a space where we are supposed to go to gain our education. A lot of our education system in music is literally dating back to the 1800s. And this woman not only went through the rigor it takes to become a music educator, but the ranks to be one of the heads of the music department in Denver Public School System, DPS, which involves music education from elementary all the way through high school. Now, I had the honor of meeting Edwina through the Modern Band Summit. Shout out to Music Will, which is a place or a gathering where radical music educators are looking to change their pedagogy to be more student-centered, to be more creative. But working within these structures carries a whole lot of challenges, which inspired, I'll let her tell the story in a few, but her to make some moves that had to be done. Not all these changes that we need in this world are going to happen through institutions, through organizations, and through structures that are rooted in oppression. So I had to get this woman out here, but before I go into our opening questions, I just want to pass the mic to Edwina to introduce herself. Not only is she an amazing educator, musician, an advocate, she is a mom. She is also working with the Colorado Treks organization founded by her partner, Dom, which does amazing work within the Denver area, connecting youth back to nature, back to their indigenous rights. And they are now opening a arts and media component that is starting to bubble up as Edwina has made this transition. So we'll make sure we hit you guys with some of those descriptions, but I want to pass the mic to Edwina. Thank you for doing this Artivist Talk. Thank you for your patience. And thank you for everybody in here. This is going to be a fire one. I'm going to throw on some heart emojis or something I got to bring in the love as Edwina introduces herself. Take it away, love.
Hi. Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. And I'm really excited to be doing this. Like you said, I've been in education for 20 somewhat years. Most of that time spent serving in Denver Public Schools, or Denver Public Schools adjacent in a charter network. And I've taught all over the city, and I've kind of seen the changes that have happened in the past 20 years in education. It's a very different landscape than it was, when I was a brand new teacher in 2004. And yeah, I had kind of reached the pinnacle of what I thought my career was, wanted to be. I ended up in the music instructional curriculum specialist role in DPS about 2 years ago. And, in some ways it was amazing and wonderful. And then there was a lot of ways that it was really frustrating and disappointing. So I made the decision about a month and a half ago to take a leap and go somewhere where I knew that I would be fulfilled, which was working with my husband with Colorado Treks. And that was a dream that we've had since he started the organization about 10 years ago. So, you know, the timing was right, and it felt good, and it, you know, worked out. But here we are. And I'm still hoping to just be in spaces that can advocate and really like push the bar for what our expectations are for music education. Education in general, like, requires a revolution right now. And I think music education has always been a really important part of that. And I think that we have some work to do to catch up, because there's an assumption that music is music and we're doing the thing because we're artists and we're creative. And it's really easy for us to fall into that kind of complacency and status quo and not realize it. So I'm kind of feeling like that needs to be my direction, and my mission is to help awaken people into like, what are the actual actionable things that we can do to change our pedagogy and to change our outlook and to better serve the humans in front of us.
Wow, Edwina, thank you for adding on to that. We always open these dialogues with our mission, which is artivism, right? For us at Creative Expressions, of course, artivism is a hybrid word, art and activism. We define activism as activating your organism to its highest potential so that we can fill our cup so it will overflow into community, overflow into change, not necessarily being political by nature, but or burning ourselves out and pouring a half full cup into others. But we want to really pour into that. We believe everyone is an artist by nature. We were all created by a creator to express some form of creativity, whether that's music, dance, singing. Even if you're nice with the spreadsheets, everyone is some form of creative, and that creative expression deserves to be expressed. And we know that art is not only limited to entertainment, it is a tool that can be used to activate ourselves, our community, to some of the highest levels. It will bring forth change. It has been one of the greatest things in human society to cause change and cause us to reach different levels of self-awareness as well as community advocation. So I want to ask you the first question: what is artivism to you, and how do you express and use your art beyond some of the conventional ways, and maybe some of your artistic mediums, if you care to share that with us?
So I think artivism is, as you described it, and I feel like, you know, it's just the meeting of activism and artistry. But I think artistry has never not been connected to activism, because I think it is an act of revolution, it is an act of liberation and defiance to express who you are as a human through art. So like, art's existence is activism. So to me, it's kind of always gone hand in hand. And I think that's why a lot of places are afraid to let artists be artists in public school situations, or just you know, institutions, because if we're genuinely allowing humans to express themselves and to identify with themselves and to tap into that part of themselves, that opens up a world of possibilities, which is beautiful but terrifying to the man. So I really think that it has always been intricately wound together, and woven together. And as we kind of reach these moments in our history where social justice really like takes center stage, the fact that art is such a part of that like freaks people out that don't want the oppressed to be liberated, that don't want the system to change, because the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And our connection to ourself breaks that system. So anything that's going to connect you to self, we don't want it. So yeah.
That's a bar, Edwina. That's a bar and a half. I knew you were gonna bring the funk, the sauce. You got hearts flying around from all over the world in here. I do want to talk to you about your journey into art. I know even
Mhm.
before you were an educator, music was a deep part of your life. Knowing your story and getting to build with you over these past couple months has been a journey from feeling the pressures of taking formal music education, a very long route, to
Mhm.
almost decolonizing yourself through being open-minded to different ways, even though you are trained as a professional music educator and beyond. So I would like you to describe your relationship and your journey with music, and take us back to young Edwina, and how music came into your life, and how
Yeah.
you fell in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been making music as long as I can remember. I don't have any cognitive memory of a time where music wasn't just fully a part of my existence.
Mm.
I grew up in a house that appreciated music. My mom is a lovely singer. My dad, as he says, plays the radio really
Mm.
well, but
Nice.
gave me an introduction to just the rich harmonies of the music of the 50s and 60s. I grew up with like Motown and
Mhm.
the Beatles,
Mhm.
and I remember sitting with the Mamas and the Papas record where Mama Cass is in the bathtub and just like loving what was happening in my ears when I heard that stuff.
Mm.
And I always credit Green Day with helping me learn how to harmonize.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
I sat on a school bus in seventh grade listening to Dookie and
Mhm.
like singing
Classic.
along with it and being like, wow, like that harmony is really cool. And so like all of those things informed me as a musician. And I definitely like played by ear. I played piano by ear as a
Mhm.
kid, and then obviously sang. And I got introduced to like formal white music theory, Western music theory.
Mhm.
Probably, I mean, definitely in elementary school. I grew up in like a pretty like affluent school district in
Mhm.
Denver. So we had like formal music education at every level,
Mhm.
and it definitely focused on like, can you read music? Are you literate? And those things. And
Mhm.
um, but I always kind of struggled with it. Like my ear was so strong, and
Mhm.
trying to connect the like written aspect of Western music theory was really hard for me.
Mm.
So I got to college and I was a voice major initially, and then had some experiences with the college of or the school of education, and was like, oh no, I actually think I do want to switch to ed. I had been resisting it, though like I come from a very long line of teachers
Mm.
on both sides of my family, and yeah, I got past, freshman theory one, which was the
Mhm.
same as my AP music theory course, which I had taken with a teacher that I adored
Mhm.
and had all the supports in place, all of the privileges in place. Like I was a person who was supposed to succeed at this
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And then I failed like 3 semesters in a row of
Mm.
college music theory. And I had like a dark night of the soul in my apartment over the summer when I was taking like makeup courses. And I was like, shit, I think I'm not supposed to do this music thing. Like, I can't even pass this music theory course. Like, all of my peers around me are like, why is this so hard? And I didn't care about it, I guess, was part of it because I
Mm.
didn't see why I needed to care that deeply about it.
Mm.
I had had success making music without having to depend on that system. And it didn't really make sense to me that, like, I need to not trust this, not trust my ear, and
Mm.
depend on the things that I was seeing in a system that at the time I did not have the language or understand why I felt this way. But like now, 20 years later, I recognize that like that felt wrong because it was wrong. Like that isn't the
Mm.
only way to express music. That is a system that works, and it serves a purpose to communicate a specific aesthetic of music, but that is not the only way that humans communicate music to each other. So it took me a long time. I think it made me a better teacher sometimes with theory because I really did struggle with it. So
Mhm.
I really had to figure out how to get it myself so I could teach it better to kids. But I felt like cognitive dissonance my whole career prioritizing white Western music theory.
Mm.
Um, and it wasn't until about maybe 2 or 3 years ago that I really started to deconstruct that and understand why I felt that way. Like, what was the thing that was bugging me? So that's a bit of my journey.
Wow. I love it, Edwina. This is the sauce, as we say out here. And I want to point out something you said really deeply. Literally, on a physical level, you were trusting your body, you were trusting your ears, you were trusting the sensory input. And a system then said, hey, you need to trust this over this. You were able to find a way to connect it and get through it. And I'm sure that that's probably why a lot of your students are able to connect to you. You had this love for it, the intrinsic love, I want to point out. You had a relationship to the music through your family, through the radio, through your mom as a singer. You had the inspiration, the Green Days, the Dookie classic albums, and those things that brought you into wanting to create. You did it yourself, and then now you took it to the next level, which is naturally for a young person to go into there. And then all of a sudden, now you're here with the thing you love. You already got good at it through your own being and your own physical body. And then now all of a sudden, there's this discord, right? And this disconnect. I want to talk about your journey now as an educator, right? Because it's a long road. It was 20 years in it. And you did what I say, lack of better term, this woman's got ovaries of steel, because it takes courage. She's a mom. She's 20 years in the game. And you saw that there was, me and you speak about this all the time, that glass ceiling. You could see above. You could see way beyond what is being pushed through these institutions that are rooted in oppression, right? And yet you chose, even with a family, a house, and a lot of things that keep people shackled to their jobs. And of course, 20 years is a long time. This is around the time people get their tenures and people get the things that they stay in the system so hard for. What gave you the strength and perseverance to leave at this stage of your life and in your career? And how does that feel internally? Because I know it's not easy. Guys, this is just a month or two ago she's done this. This wasn't like 5 years ago. So I wanted to build with her at this point of that journey. So talk to us about that, the journey and what got you out of there and what is calling in your spirit now to make those shifts.
Yeah, I think was, it's been a long time coming. I just made the jump, a month and a half, 2 months ago, but I've been wanting to get out of that abusive relationship with public education for a really long time. And so I did that by changing things up. Like I went from the classroom to a kind of a hybrid position of leadership and still classroom. And then I jumped ship and did all admin. I was an assistant principal for a hot minute. And then was like, no, I missed the music aspect. So I went back into kind of a hybrid position. And then this dream job opened up as the head of the music department. So I did that. And throughout all of that, and I had a friend tell me this recently when I was kind of talking about like, maybe it's me, like, hi, I'm the problem. And thank you, Taylor Swift, for that. And she was like, no, it's not Edwina that's the issue. It's Edwina in education that seems to be the common denominator. So like I was excited and I was passionate about the work that I was doing in each of those changes and situations, but like I was literally the definition of crazy. I was trying to do something inside the same system with the same constraints, with the same everything set up, expecting that I would have a different result. And of course I didn't have a different result because I was still working in the same oppressive system that does not want to see this kind of change happen, right? Like we want to put it on paper and we want to check off boxes and we want to look good for the media and we want to look good for our like socials and all of that. But like when it came down to it, nothing was actually being allowed to change in any kind of what felt like a real tangible way for me to continue to be a part of it. So, I mean, my health started to take a turn. I was like just always feeling like crap. My mental health wasn't great. I was really kind of getting into a constant state of like depression, agitation, anxiety, and then feeling bad that I felt that way. So it was like this cycle that just continued and continued. And it was starting to affect my family. It was starting to just affect everything around me. And when the opportunity kind of popped up a little bit out of nowhere to join my husband, it was like, okay, there it is. Like this is how I can really like make this change in my life, and and put myself in a better place, because then I got to a point too where I wasn't even really serving in those positions because I wasn't fulfilled and
Mm.
I wasn't connected, and was really just feeling like an imposter, but also a hypocrite, just like all of these different kind of conflicting emotions. And literally the next day after I made the decision, like I felt all of it just start to lift and go away. And here I am like a month later, and I can't believe that that was my baseline, the way that I was operating in that space.
Mm.
I, have had a couple of things pop in that like started to rile me up again and get me agitated. And I was like, oh my God, that's literally how I felt all day long, every day. Like
Wow.
that was my baseline, and that's not okay. So, it was a lot of just personal, like I've got to make a change
Mm.
for my life, but also recognizing that like I'm not doing any good to anybody, and I'm not actually going to be able to do this thing and make these changes in this system because it's changing me instead
Mm.
of me changing it. So yeah, now I just feel a freedom to do it the way I want to do it and make the changes that I want to make, say what I want to say, and give zero F's about it. I definitely like had some feathers that got ruffled in my position, and you know, people weren't necessarily ready to hear the things that I needed to say. And I think I had some learning to do of how to deliver and how to, not like piss people off before they even hear what I have to say. But again, in that position, I wasn't able to even do that work because I was just in this constant state of like rage.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Edwina, you touched on so much things. I want to reiterate for anybody just joining in. 20 years in the game, y'all. Came in this with a love of music to offer students. Had her own struggles with theory and the traditional oppressive white supremacist way of learning music. Still managed to get through it. Still gave it in. Rose up to not only become a teacher, but to the higher levels, from admin to the dream job, right? And then still nothing done because these systems are rooted in that. She also dropped the immortal technique bar. When you go into a system that is rooted in oppression, seeking change, we don't succeed in changing the system succeeds in changing us. From facing physical, mental, all these adversities in her own health and well-being, to hold on to this job or this title or these securities that are frankly put bullshit. And yet she got out of it trusting. And she said something really powerful. As soon as Edwina got out of that system, within a very short time, something alleviated in her. And when she had challenges, which all life brings, she said, how did I navigate with this frequency all day, every day? Nervous system being activated. And we as people, we do this subconsciously and unconsciously. Beth Bliss has a question in the chat for you, Edwina. She says, it takes so much courage to let go. Thank you for being vulnerable. What conscious decisions are you making to create your own music programs? Kind of tapping into where we're heading, right on the beat. What conscious decisions are you making to create your own music programs that are personal and meet the youth's many needs now that you're working outside of the system? Great question, Beth.
Yeah, so I've been thinking on this, before this jump even of like what are the things that I'm trying to do even inside those systems. And one thing that I know for sure is like it has to it has to flip. The classroom model has to flip. The community programming model has to flip from like I am the all-knowing, you know, everything, and I'm coming into you and I'm giving you all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
It that has to flip into we are in community together. And I have a skill set and I have things that I know. I also have a bunch of things that I don't know. And when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like cultures outside of my own, yes, I don't know anything as intimately as I know my own culture. So, and I think we talk about that in public education, student-centered classrooms, all of that, but we haven't really I don't think hit like how to actually do that. And I don't know that I have all those answers still. But I know that outside of the public education system, there's a lot more autonomy to do it closer to the right way. So I'm going to be starting like a singing collective kind of pop-up like choir thing. And one of the things that I'm including in my sign up right away is language that makes it clear where I stand on like the roots of white music theory and the roots of even choral music singing in America. All of it is really tied to white supremacy in a really disgusting way. So on the sign up, like I make clear right away, like, hey, do you know how to read white music theory? If yes, awesome. If not, that is absolutely not a requirement, and you're going to be okay. Like, this is a space where like you can just come into it as you are as a human, and it's not a deficit mindset. It's not, well, I need to get you caught up so you can hang with me. Like, no, we just need to be together and share space, and it will happen. So that's kind of one thing I'm doing, which isn't really specifically for kids, but I'm trying to bring in people who were kids who had maybe a shitty time in their experience. Like, I can't even tell you how many people I know are walking around in Denver, Colorado, who can sing, who can pick up a harmony, who would have their soul fulfilled by that connection to other humans, who were told in 6th grade that they didn't have the right tone, they didn't have the right skills to read the music, they didn't have this, they didn't have this, and that died. Like, that spirit in them was put to rest. And all they need is to like have a space. Like, we just need a space to be, right? So that's something I'm really thinking about just for any human. And then I think a lot of this starts with what are we feeding the teachers to help them feel fulfilled? Why and I talked about this, that like everything should be about students, right? Like, students, yes, are first, but it's the oxygen mask little analogy. Like, if we're not fooling ourselves at first, then how can we possibly do that for others? So if we aren't connecting deeply as musicians, as music makers, whatever we identify as on that spectrum, I call myself a music maker because I frankly think the term musician is too precious. I think that it carries too much like bouginess in circles, and I don't want to call myself a musician. I'm a music maker. I make music. Like, I try to create out of sounds that are pleasing to me and hopefully to the people around me. And so I think of like, how are our teachers in our classrooms or anywhere, even like at the post-secondary level, at the collegiate level, university, how are we actually connecting to our identities as music makers? Are we allowed the freedom to express ourselves? Are we doing that in any kind of a regular basis? Are we, feeling those same things that like people who maybe music making isn't a part of their daily lives, who are walking around and had that squelched in 6th grade? There's just as many music makers, musicians, professionals, teachers who are walking around with like a fear to express musically, which is wild to me. The number of people who I've been like, hey, would you mind just like singing this thing right here? And they're like, oh, no, I'm not comfortable with that. Or like, hey, could you just come over here and like play these chords for a minute? No, I'm not a piano player. And these are like music educators who over some part of their journey were told that like that's not a thing that they can do because they didn't do it at some prescribed level by who made that prescription. So that's something I've been really thinking about a lot too, is that if our music educators are deeply rooted and deeply connected to their identities as music makers, but just as humans even, then they can better set up circumstances to help students find that themselves.
Ooh, Edwina, you got the bars. That's what I'm going to say. This next question comes all the way from Bristol in the UK. Man, this is a great one. Me and you have had this combo. This is why I love these combos. How did you balance when you were working in the schools, your workload, and being a creative? We spoke about this just Wednesday,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna let you drop it just right there. How was that balance between knowing you had that love for music, you were a creator before an educator, and then now you became this educator that's supposed to be in this creative field, head of the music department, right? And you would think, and you were kind of alluding to that on your previous answer, where you said that even though they're these teachers who are supposed to be the guidance, they're terrified to sing out loud. They're terrified to play a couple chords. They come with these fear, scarcity mindset. So how were you balancing creativity and work when you were being a mom, a teacher, and all of that? What was happening with your creativity when you were balancing school, work, etc., and life?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, there were times where it wasn't a balance. I just was fully disconnected from my creative side. And there was a period of time, I was about 10 or 12 years into teaching, had taken a sabbatical to teach at a college, and in that experience was able to perform and kind of do my own thing too. And I came back from that and like got with a band and was playing out. So probably like 2 years around the midpoint of my career, I was able to really focus on, I'm a musician, music maker, and I'm a teacher. And those were, in hindsight, the best years of my teaching, is what I've realized, like looking back. When I was tapped in to my creativity in a regular way, you know, and it wasn't that I was like even practicing that much. I was just, we were playing. Like it was a group of people who, we were
It was part
pros
of your
and we could pick
lifestyle.
it up and just like play a gig, and it wasn't a big deal. Maybe practice every once in a while. So it wasn't, you know, it was time consuming in that like it was gigs till 2 a.m., like whatever. But I wasn't having to like spend a lot of time practicing outside of that. And so I could balance that. Then I met my husband, and had, you know, responsibilities of being in a new relationship. And then my husband also had 2 sons who became obviously a part of our lives. So things shifted definitely, and it became less easy to balance. And then I had 2 babies. And the thing that I think is hard is that we don't prioritize our teachers' creativity. And I think that's such a unique need for arts educators compared to other educators, right? Like a math teacher, no offense, all you math teachers out there, you maybe don't need to sit and practice problems, right? Like
Yeah.
the craft of math is not something that necessarily needs to be continually, you know, nurtured in the way that like artistry needs to continually be
Yes.
nurtured. And so, yeah, you got your degree, check, you're done. You did this, you passed your proficiencies for piano or guitar or whatever, check, you're done. That's how that works for the other degrees, because it can, right? I got my math proficiency. I know how to solve these equations. I know how to teach these equations. I don't really need to do much else with that. Maybe the pedagogy of teaching, which is a thing that we all want to work on, but the actual skill of mathematics is not a thing that people continue to work on necessarily in the way that we need to as artists. So
Yes.
I think that it's part of the system. Like I think if we could redesign a system to allow space for music educators to have that connection, then that would more naturally happen. And if you add in like, you know, being like, just being a parent is difficult enough. And in our society, if you're the mom in that situation, you're likely to have a lot more responsibility or a lot more of your time earmarked to things that are not for you. And so it makes it doubly hard. I have seen colleagues who are male, who also have 2 or 3 kids, who they can manage and play out and they gig all the time, and it's no big deal because somebody's holding it down at home. So, you know,
Yeah.
there's a whole
They're
lot.
not
Like
cooking dinner
they're
and,
not
yeah,
necessarily
doing,
taking that role in
yeah.
that partnership, right? And that's their choice, and that's fine, and it works for them. But more often than not, you do see that it is the female, it is the mother figure who's not able to have that freedom either. So not only are we dealing with just, like all of the oppressive systems, but the big daddy of them all, which is the patriarchy, is
Mm-hmm.
really permeates throughout all of it as well. So
Yes. Wow, Edwina. That is so articulate. Thank you, Zuby, for that question, because I want to reiterate once again what was said. There wasn't a balance. There was go to work, pass this proficiency, get in this full-time gig, and only until Edwina on her own took a sabbatical, meaning reduced her workload and chose, I'm going to actively play in this band again. We're going to gig. We're going to do what we got to do, rehearse when we can. And that synonymously was what she identifies as her strongest teaching years, because she was doing what she was loving. I relate to, even when I got to the teaching artist level as a full-time teaching artist, when I was teaching 4 to 5 days, running to the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens, and it became all about going into the classrooms and not about me making beats, producing, composing, writing, and playing the instrument. I lost something, and I questioned myself. I was like, well, maybe I'm just supposed to be this educator, and that's a more noble role than being an artist. But when you don't do it, the youth, the people, they smell it in you. If you're
yeah.
not doing something, you're not carrying it. And these kids, especially nowadays, they ain't having it. So if you're gonna tell them, hey, do these scales and run this, or and you wasn't working on a song last night, or you're not doing it, they are not buying it from you, because they are not looking at the greatest music teacher at Juilliard and saying, this is what I want to be. They're looking at artists who they love that are going home and writing songs, strumming their guitar, playing their instrument, blowing on their saxophone, doing what they want to do. And if we are not doing, that is a great point. What are we really offering? How are you going to be the coach that wasn't or isn't playing the game? The greatest people get in the field. And that said, that is the difference between being a leader and a boss. A boss will give orders, you do this, you do that. And unfortunately, in music education, it's been play this scale, take this thing, here you go. Versus, I am with you. I am in the trenches coming up with new progressions, new melodies, new chords, and I'm going to explore with you. I'm going to be vulnerable and make mistakes with you. I'm going to learn from you. I am not going to be, as you mentioned, the all-knowing teacher. I'm not going to be the divine person who has all these answers. I'm going to be a student. And when you became a student, you were doing your work and you were balancing that. It was amazing. So I really want to thank you for that point that you made. And I want to go into another thing that is connected to artivism, right? Now that you made the leap of faith, I'm going to call it, right? You're almost like a brand new a baby again in
Mm-hmm.
certain ways, right? You have to recreate your identity. You have your morals on what you stand for as a person, and thank you for being the amazing woman you are. You have the things that you're balancing. You are now working with Colorado Trex in a new way and going to bring in some art and music, and I'm hoping to help you with this journey, right? Now that you're almost la tabla rasa, the blank slate, Edwina, I want you to use your imagination, and you have this foundation of 20 years as a music educator. You have your foundation as a mom. You have this experience, but yet you're in a very, very new space. Literally 1 to 2 months ago, you are now in a new way. What is coming up for you? What are some of the challenges that you're facing now? What are some of the visions? I know you spoke about the singing workshops now being not exclusive to people who just have formal education. You're being inclusive, meaning to allow other folks from all different backgrounds to join this. But what are you seeing coming up now that you're in this new phase and you no longer have the red tape of the DOE behind you in these systemic structures? What's coming up for you in your heart and spirit?
Yeah, I think I've really just been thinking of how do I take this gift that I've been given by universe, creator, my husband, of the ability to do work that I'm deeply connected to and care about, which is Colorado Trex is an amazing organization that my husband's been building for the last 10 years, and connects youth community, parents, families to their identity via the outdoors. And culture and all the things that go with that. And so, I have this time now where I'm doing work that is helpful for my mind and spirit, in a way that my work before
Mm,
wasn't, right? Like
mm,
the stresses are gone. I think like you can just literally feel the lightness in our home now, compared to 6 weeks ago. And so I'm trying to embrace this kind of wellness journey for myself. And what are the things that I'm getting that are working? What are the things that I'm still needing? And what are the ways that, as an educator with the experience I have, but now with the ties cut off from public education and all of the just red tape that goes with that, like what do I do to not squander this moment? Basically, is where I'm sitting. So yeah, I think the connection of our voices, being our literal bodies and being an instrument has always been really intriguing to me. I've always felt that connection and just not really necessarily had the vocabulary to articulate it. And so I'm really thinking too about just, the voice and how powerful it is, and how, like I said earlier, like the public education complex, the capitalism, patriarchy, all of these systems don't want people to connect to themselves, because as soon as they start to do that, they find truth. And when you find truth, you can no longer accept what has been fed to you.
Ooh.
And so I think our voices, like our literal ability to make sounds from our gut and put it out into the world, whether it is a sing-song sound, whether it is a grito, whether it is like a weeping, whatever it is, like that has to like be allowed to come out. And I have seen in my 20 years teaching in Denver public schools that our system has done a really good job at silencing those voices in every way. And the first part is by not allowing people to have access to something like a music class where they would be literally taught how to use that voice and how to express, right? So if we eliminate these expressive classes from our schooling, then they're not even getting the tools to do that. I sat in a conversation with some district high-ups right before I left, and they were like, man, how do we increase student engagement and talk in these classrooms? They just need to talk to each other. And I was like, how do you expect them to do that when we're not even teaching them how to? Like, we're literally stripping that ability away from them at the earliest opportunity. And now we're sitting wondering, like, why can't they talk about mitochondria? Like, because we haven't taught them how to express themselves by design. We don't want them to express themselves. So it's just this interesting thing where I don't want to assume that all people that operate in the in the public complex of things have evil intentions. I don't think they all have evil intentions, but like if you can sit there and ask that question and you're like a seemingly intelligent human and like not connect together that we've stripped that part of their education, doesn't exist. We do not teach expression. And that is by design. So like, don't sit and ask me, why can't we get them to talk to each other in class? Like, we don't want them to. We told them not to.
We told them to sit down and be quiet and shut up and do the test. Yeah.
So I think, that's something that I feel really strongly called to, is like, how do we, and it's not going to happen inside that oppressive structure, as we talked about earlier this week. Like this work has to take place outside of those structures, because it's just not going to happen. Like, and I say that with confidence and not with like defeat. I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm not going to beat my head against a wall anymore. Like that wall is solid. It's there. So I'm going to turn and find a different way to get in there, because going through that is actually not it. So it's things like Colorado Treks, which is, we provide that identity work to school-age children in communities, sometimes maybe in the classroom and like inside the school, but more often than not, those connections are made, well, most of the time, outside and in nature and not inside that literal institution. There's some great, nonprofits in the Denver area for music that are doing this work and really bringing it to the people where they are and in their environment where they feel safe and where they feel that they can make those connections without the man literally peering over their shoulder telling them that they can't do this.
That is so real, Edwina. Once again, you got bars for days. You will not find freedom through the systems, y'all. I think that's just something that's got to be said. We are not shitting on anybody or saying these are bad people. These are people looking for security, for jobs, to be able to hold down families, houses, and these kind of things. But guys, it's going to start with us in our living rooms. It's going to start, me and Edwina speak regularly. Even when we put a contract through where she was literally, me and her wrote down these things, curriculum, PDs, all the things that would be needed to change. She brought it to the table. She is not just a teacher at one lowly music school, which is divide and conquer. Another thing she mentioned, isolate them, get them away from their creativity, disconnect you from yourself. Then now, when you jump through these hoops to become a director position, an AP position, a higher up, she was the higher up, y'all. She was there for her whole district, for her whole city. And then still wrote the proposal. I have the vendor's license. We have history proved, working with Berkeley and beyond. We had the accolades. This wasn't like we rolled out of bed and said we scratched our behind and said, here we go. No, she took Modern Band 101, was going to accredited organizations with other proof of concept from the last decades, even centuries, that have proven music unlocks the soul and spirit. This has been since human existence. Did the articulate work, implemented standards. We're not talking about not meeting. We're surpassed every standard. When she took me to Who Will Not Be Named and the other people in the system, I said, what are we talking about here? Are we really about change, or are we just making this look good and going to have a cool assembly and then this is it and that's that? This is not going to cause change, y'all. Just waving a banner and doing what's being done with Black History Month by saying, here's a Martin Luther King speech, and not embodying these characteristics is not going to cut it. And high key, low key, these are the things that are holding us back. People are doing what's called performance art, where they're waving this, I stand for this, I stand for music, and then they have a cool assembly, a cool show, and then it's right back to business with the same old oppressive curriculum that takes over 90% of their school education in their day. So this woman who has been there 20 plus years is saying we're not going to find freedom through these systems and is willing to walk out. But I don't know what, if that isn't bravery, I don't know what is, y'all. Find that in yourself. But I say this, know that you've been climbing up this rope and growing wings, and you can jump off and you'll fly. But it's on us, y'all. It's on us, and that's why I'm having these talks and these conversations from all walks of life, all places and spaces. We have another question in the chat from Beth Bliss. The system runs on cognitive dissonance and coffee. Where does the coffee come from? Where does the cognitive dissonance come from? Definitely trauma. Some more of that, right? We stay in these things because we're afraid. These are fear-based things. It's just a joke she threw in, but it's real. We're going to riff off of that because we're scared, y'all. We're scared that we can't do what we love. We were told from the moment I said I want to be a musician and an artist, music maker, creative songwriter, I was told this isn't a real job. Go get into something else. I studied audio engineering and music production to learn the technical side because I was taught that this isn't a way. Then when I got into music, same thing. I was like Edwina. I played by ear. I played by feeling. I started sampling things. I didn't know how to play an instrument at the moment. And I was told, well, that's not real music, you know, when I went in. And then I felt insecure. And you know what I did? I studied piano and I studied theory for 5 years, learning what B flat sus 2 sharp 9 is. You know, I studied how to create jazz chords. And then I realized I was practicing out of fear. I picked up the guitar and was so scared. I was like, I'm a lefty. I learned right-handed because I was like, there's more guitars right-handed. I must play as often as possible. I drove myself to insanity practicing 6, 7, 8 hours a day where I was almost developing carpal tunnel through poor technique because I was afraid, y'all. I was scared not to sound good. I was afraid to hit a bum note. I wanted to sing and I came from rap and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. When I went to my friends and I started squeaking out notes and playing some basic chord progressions, they told me, stick to rapping, my guy. Stick to this. this is not meant for you, you know? And then something in my soul screamed at me, please, you can do this. I studied YouTube videos. I hung out with the greatest educators. I took private lessons from people who had master's degrees from Manhattan School of Music and this. And what they told me is they said, why? You have an advantage. Your mind isn't conditioned. Trust in your sound. Trust in what you play. Trust in what you do. And that trust is what you're bringing, Edwina. I want you to take the mic again and just explain to us, like, what's in your thoughts. I know you spoke about your daughter facing challenges in the school system, right? And you're holding steadfast. They got parents literally drugging their kids, y'all. They got these systems are doing horrendous things under the guise of education and helping. These systems are just as dangerous as the jail systems or the medical systems. And in fact, they're a lot more because they usually get the bypass where people just put their youth in there from K to 12, and they're going through a deep level of conditioning that is teaching us to be fear-based and teaching us to be scared. So Edwina, I just want to give you a little bit of free form in this, you know, to talk about like what is on your heart and what is on your spirit seeing through all of this, because this is not easy. This you're jumping into the unknown. You didn't say, hey, I saved up for 5 years, I got out, I have a plan, I built a new business. No, you said, look, my husband has Colorado Treks. I'm going to add something to this. Me and you are chopping it up more and more. And we're figuring it out as we build the bridge, as we cross it, I like to say, right? But this is not something of, we got this master plan. I'm bouncing back in the dock with you. We're reaching out to people. I said, Edwina, we need you on this. We're creating this content. We're putting this on YouTube to share that this is the pedagogy and the philosophy that we're coming from. And this ain't easy, y'all. So just know that this wasn't her taking a plan for 5 years. Her soul was being crushed and her spirit was going through something, and it was a masochistic point of no return energy. And then finally, when she realized, I'm not going to make change through the system, I have to make a change in myself. She's pointing out to nature. She's pointing out to other ways of ciphering in communities, singing circles. This is what she's doing, y'all. She's not coming in and saying we're going to reform the schools anymore. We're like, we have to build alternatives. So I want you to just riff on whatever's on your heart, Edwina, because I know this is difficult work and you're doing a great fight. I want to always give you your flowers for doing this, because this takes courage, this takes strength, and you don't really know where it's going to end up, but you know that you're following something that's in your heart. So for anyone watching this, trust in your process, trust in your feelings. If you know that that job isn't right for you, you got to get out of there, y'all. It's going to take away your life. She tried to change it from 20 years by passing these tests, working with great educators like Roy, people who believe in the system, not believe in the system, believe in their systems and believe they can bring change. But you got to make the change in you, Edwin, and, you know, as Edwina's saying. So, you know, talk to us on that. How are you making the changes? How are you feeling internally? What's on your heart and spirit? Could be about music, could be beyond music. Please let us know about what you feel at this current moment now that you've made the leap of faith. It's a couple months, and you're in this for the long haul. So what's coming up for you
Yeah.
at this moment?
I think, you know, the part of my work in my last role that I wish I could have done more with, and if I felt like I could have stayed longer, I would have focused on a lot of what we already talked about, is the teacher connection to self and connection to their music making, but also just like letting go of the idea that the world will stop turning if you leave the classroom that you're in, if you leave education, if you leave the school that you're at. I stayed in a lot of places longer than I should have, because, again, of what I describe as like an abusive relationship with education. They're really nice sometimes, like, you don't know, they say nice things and they do nice things, and then on the flip side of that are like ripping your soul apart. And so I don't know, I guess if there are educators who are watching and like, you know, feeling like, yes, this is awesome, or if you're watching and you're like, whatever, girl, like I can't make that jump, like, cool, you had a place to go to, like, yeah, the universe worked out for me, it did. And that way, like, I am incredibly privileged and incredibly blessed, because I had been searching for a long time. But I had made the conscious decision. I literally started manifesting this change in like August of last year, of last summer, and really made like a conscious like shift that I know this is not right, and I know that I want a way out. And when I made that flip in my own mind and made that commitment to myself that it was okay for me to leave, it was okay for me to explore other options, the universe provided that, right? So whatever your belief system is, whatever, if you have no belief system and things just randomly work out and shit's cool sometimes, shit got cool for me. And I think it's because I manifested it. Because I said, I'm not okay here. I need a change. And I got okay with that decision. I couldn't have done this at any other point in my life because I wasn't ready to be okay with that decision. So I think it just takes a lot of kind of hard reflection of yourself. It takes a lot of hard soul searching. And, you know, there is an amount of, for me, there was an amount of ego for sure connected to this. I got these 2 degrees. What else am I going to do with a master's in music education? I'm in the highest possible job I could be in Denver Public Schools. Like, what do you mean I don't want to do this? This isn't what I wanted it to be. There was a lot of ego that I had to work through of like, I'm actually not that big a deal. Number one. Number two, I am a big deal in some other ways that I'm not allowing to flourish right now. So like, I had to really kind of like just let go of the image of what my job was. I had to let go of all of those kind of expectations that I had placed on myself by society and by just design. Like that's what you do. You go to school, you get your degree, and you work. And like, what a waste if you're not doing that thing. But again, when I sat down and really started to have that kind of hard conversation with myself, I wasn't doing that work anyway. Like it wasn't even happening. So I guess I would just really encourage people who are in whatever field struggling and afraid to make that jump, that sometimes you have to jump without the net being there. And you might get real close to crashing onto that hard ground, but I truly feel like that net's going to show up and it's going to happen somehow. And it takes trusting in yourself, and it takes trusting in whatever it is that you put your external kind of, you know, thoughts and spirit into, to make that happen. So yeah, I would encourage the permission to get to know yourself and like really who that is.
Trust. Wow, Edwina, you got bars for days. This is amazing because I gotta always reiterate the jewels being dropped here, y'all. You're never gonna be ready. If your inner spirit or your greatest ambition is calling you, you owe it to yourself to follow that. Take that leap. There's never gonna be the perfect time. But if you trust and you have that vision, you know that vision is in you for a reason. She started planting those seeds years ago, went up to the mountaintop and realized the view was better from the bottom, as they say. The great AC Alone said that from Freestyle Fellowship. And it's something that we do. We think, whoa, when I get this, then it'll work. When I get this new job, when I get this next thing, then when I put this album, when I do this, then it'll work. But until you are in alignment with yourself, which is why Artivism is activating your organism to its highest potential so that it can serve yourself and others. This is the key, y'all. This is for all of us. And yes, of course, some people have harder situations and this and that. But guess what? We all have an internal battle, and you got to deal with yourself. You got to deal with yourself. Someone said right in the chat, yes, trusting. It is not easy, but it is that simple. we stick to something we don't want to because we're like, I need this job security, I need this thing. And then we literally are at war with ourselves. Edwina said her health, mentally, physically, took a toll because she kept trying. And then she's like, where more can I go? Be the president, that's it. Become president of NAFME, and then that's it. But she already knew the higher I go, the issues are still the same. We're not allowing the kids to express themselves. We're not creating safe spaces. And she had to go back to nature and return to the work that she's doing with Colorado Treks now. I'm excited for what's going to happen, Edwina, for you, because you did the hard part, y'all. The hard part is showing up and knowing, and this applies to people like myself too, because I thought I was going to get freedom through views, plays, and likes and streams. I got on a video game soundtrack with a founder of hip hop. I got into this. Once again, I started learning the piano. I learned the guitar. I started expressing myself. And wanton desire, it always perpetuates something else. It comes to a point where you have to accept yourself and love yourself. And as cliche and hippie as it sounds, it's the truth that you must make an inner connection to yourself and be in alignment with that. When you are in alignment with yourself, as crazy as people might think you are, as much as they can say, you stop looking outside for answers, you look within, and you're never going to be without that safety net or that save that was there is accessible to all beings. It is here. We've been conditioned and our minds have been colonized through several sources beyond our doing that have told us that take this safety route. We are literally conditioned through systemic structures, parents, school, media, social media. All these things are telling us that you can find this way, or when you get this thing, then it'll be here, wait for the perfect moment. And all we are is we become batteries for systems. These systems have no power once we stop putting into them. We put our time, our energy, our kids, everything goes into these systems, and literally we are batteries being extracted, y'all. But there is a new way, and the new way is now. That's why we're doing these talks. That's why we're here. Edwina, if you want to express anything musically, I'm about to grab the axe, or you can do something if you feel like singing a little something. I've been bringing Artivist Talks, and as we wind down into this section, we always want to hold space for your creativity, whether it's an acapella or whatever you want to do. This woman is amazing, and I'm so proud of her for going against the norm. I want to reiterate a couple serious points. There's never the right moment, but you are always on time. Listen to that beat in your heart. 2, trust the process. No matter what Edwina did, it took her back to the reason she loved music, and she created music, and she was in bands and did all those things. It's there. Look inside of yourself for answers. Throughout this whole process, she found her way. Even when her work was there as an educator, she found her way to figure out the theory, her own way. She trusts her pedagogical strength. You need community. You cannot do this alone. This is why I got Edwina's back in this. This is why the chat keeps growing in here. Throw these questions up in the chat, y'all. If y'all got them, this is a legend we got in here, and we're growing, and we're spreading this love, and we're working on some great stuff in Colorado and beyond. Shout out to Dom and Colorado Treks. We're gonna build this thing bigger and further. And when she got out the system, I wasn't like, oh, Edwina, sorry, we don't got the gig, I'm out. I'm like, I'm with you. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep working. But this is 2 people in different parts of the country that stand for the same thing, that are just exchanging ideas and energies. And after our 4th conversations on Zoom, I was like, we got to take these conversations public. So I just want to honor you again for just being willing to say your raw, uncensored truth, and just hold a little space for you in case you want to do something, whether that be hum a melody, do a little poem, or give us a little something. No pressure to do so, but this is the Artivist Talk, so we got to put the art in it. And then I'm going to grab the giddy, take some words from you in the chat, and then we're going to freestyle it out. But thank you again. This is so beautiful. But Edwina, I'm passing the mic to you. Grab a little something, but if you feel like expressing anything, no pressure. We're out here. Want to hold space for your creativity.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This has been really, really awesome. Just our connection that we've had, that we're able to have these deep conversations. And I'm so appreciative that you share this out to the world, because these are the conversations that people need to hear and learn that they can be engaged into, and not afraid of it. So shout out to my niece, Brooke. Thanks, Brecky.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of other people. Mimi, is that you out there?
Yeah.
Uh, and I saw Allison up there, and I think Natalia is on here. So Gabe joined at some point. So thanks everybody that tuned into this.
Yes.
It's just
I want
important
to.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll shout out my man Guazabara. Shout out to the Taino tribe. They're in the building. The new wave, ushering in the wave crest. Blessing to you both. Return of the cool, finding our own ways.
Yeah.
Not a question, but Denise wanted to say, express how proud she is of Edwina. Thank you for taking that leap of faith. Yes, Meme says, hello, you got family in the building. So at this point, y'all, I need y'all to throw in some words. I need you guys to throw in anything that's on your heart about this conversation. We're going to bring it out with the art. And Edwina, thank you for spending some overtime, going above and beyond through the calls, through the DOE, through everything, through this. Seeds of art are being planted. Dom is in the chat. We're going to start with that as our topic. We'll call this one Seeds of Art. I want you guys to jump in. They tried to bury us, but forgot that we were seeds. They told us not to sing the music, not to read. They told us not to write or follow the West, but look inside your heart, will tell you the best. She had to leave a job and let it manifest, and let the system slave the oppressed. We can't do that. We won't even rest until we could exhale love and take our breath. I don't know what I say, but it's a D to the E, so a middle finger up at the DOE, because we might be DOA. Another day, just another place, so we just start to disappear. I hit the diminished chord because I know it feels tense in the air, but then we resolve onto the major, so we hold it up and then we do it for the favor and the flavor, like the bodegas that was giving us a way to get out. It's living it out. I was lost in my mind, I'm figuring it out. I had to share what I could and break a piece of bread because it's all inside. And don't forget what was said. It was a leap of faith, and you've been climbing. We all got God in us. It's all divine timing. And if that job is causing you some trouble, just get out of that corporate hustle. This is the 12th dimension, the age of Aquarius. We had to do it for the ancestors. They are right near us, from the rocks of Colorado and the orchestras playing to the hip-hop sounds and the beats that was prevailing. And every single thing that I tried to give in life, we can live it all day and disappear into the night, to the head voice, down to the depths of the bowels. We could break it all day and never throw in the towel. We make mistakes, but we never regress, because it takes love and art to make the world progress. It's just the thought, and you let it manifest. It just takes a thought, let it manifest. You can take a thought, let it really manifest. Yes. We free our styles. It's the great Parliament Funkadelic said, free your mind and your ass will follow. It takes liberation. It takes art. It takes community. One last call for questions, and then we're going to close it off here. Edwina, I'm going to pass the mic to you. Please give us any information. Give us a Colorado Trex. This will be live on the YouTube, and send me a little thing that we can put in the description with any links or any things you want us to promote. I'm riding with you through this. Thank you for being who you are. But yeah, any closing statements, and then we will ask for any other questions from the squad who's in the chat. We got 11 folks in here. Thank you to Guaz. Thank you to Dom. There's some amazing connections. But Edwina, hit us off with any final last words, please.
Yeah, check out Colorado Trex, TREKS.org. That's the website for my husband's amazing organization. Doing just really, really cool stuff, connecting families and community and youth to their identities in the nature of Colorado that lots of times is inaccessible for all of the oppressive barriers that exist. And look for Denver Sing Fling. That's my singing pop-up collective. We'll be starting in April, and hope to just have people there who want to hang and make music together and be in community. So thank you so much, Wai. This is awesome.
Well, we love and appreciate you here at the Creative Expression team. We want to put Colorado Treks on our community's partners page with your permission so that anyone who comes to the Creative Expression can click you guys' link and get more info on Colorado Treks. You send me an email with your logo and we'll have our administrator put that on. We would love to put you on our Artivist roster now that you are a freelance, so that anybody who's interested in what you are doing can get in touch with you, find out more information. So I will be emailing you that follow-up information, Edwina. This is going to be live, so we're going to start this, and then let's get you started. She's coming out here bringing that love. I want to reiterate a couple serious points made in this talk, y'all. Trust the process. Zubi says thank you all the way from the UK. Trust in the process. Nothing that is rooted in oppression will be converted into something that's going to save us. We have to build the new infrastructures and systems. We are the answer. We show love over here. Do not stay in something longer than you need to. Edwina took the leap of faith, but her spirit was calling her to do that a long time ago. Trust in the universe, the divine, in the essence. You will be protected. If you are moving toward love and your greatest ambition, something will show up for you, even if you cannot predict it. Be okay with the unknown. Be okay with uncertainty. Serve others. This woman is a great, great example of using her skills and talent to serve. She wasn't just out here striving to get the Grammys or do whatever she had to as an individual artist. She served with her art. Art is more than entertainment. Tune into nature. Make sure you guys tap in with Colorado Treks. I'll put the link in the information and tag their page as well on this story. But Edwina, I want to thank you for your time and going above and beyond and just being the amazing person you are. And I want to say peace to everybody in the chat. One last call for questions. If not, we're going to close it out. Keep it fresh. And remember, manifest. You're only a half step away from the resolve. All right, y'all. This is Artivist Talks with Edwina Lucero. Thank you. Peace and love.